Hello everyone. Today I wanted to cover a few things. We did the Empath assessment quiz. So you could have scored really low on it, in the middle, high. None of that makes a difference. At least this gives you an idea of where to start, and this is what's important. One thing you could have noticed that you're just a highly sensitive person. A highly sensitive person doesn't make you an empath. Just because you're highly sensitive, it doesn't mean that you're empathic. Okay, so, and none of this has to do with putting anybody down at all or lifting anybody up or going in those directions. It's just pointing things out. So, what makes somebody a highly sensitive person? You could easily just been born that way. That's one reason, right? And it has nothing to do with any type of trauma or anything like that. Also, you could have a predisposition to it by being born with a mental illness or personality disorder. This will make you a highly sensitive person. What does that mean, being a highly sensitive person? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're empathetic or compassionate or caring to others. You could just be highly sensitive, which is a way of you being in defense mode for yourself. So things could be very selfish instead of altruistic. So that's one of the reasons you could be a highly sensitive person. It could be been created through childhood experiences or childhood trauma. This could have made you a highly sensitive person. You could have had stuff going on at home that created trauma or abuse, or school. You could have been in a bad neighborhood growing up or been picked on, and this can make you a highly sensitive person. Again, it doesn't mean you're an empath. Okay. Something drastic could have happened to you somewhere in life, teenager or adult, and that could have altered you in a way where it made you more sensitive, where maybe you are more sensitive because you don't trust people like you used to, or you've been hurt so many times. These are some of the things. Or you could be a veteran where now you're highly sensitive to a lot of things because of being, unfortunately, part of a war. We used to call it shell shock syndrome. So these are reasons too. Also, you could have just got out of a toxic relationship where you were with a narcissist or a cluster B person, or somebody might have bipolar disorder or OCD or something of that nature, and you had to watch out everything you did because you're always walking on eggshells. So it started to lift up your senses to notice everything, because you have to navigate in a way where you don't want to create any problems. So now you become a highly sensitive person, and this could be for a short duration or it could last for the rest of your life. Another thing that could have made you a highly sensitive person is you just got out of a toxic relationship and you're going through the healing process. So it's like you meet new people, friends, whatever it is, and you don't trust people right away. You're a little bit on edge. So you're more sensitive than you ever were. And this is more of a defense mechanism. And this doesn't make you an empath. So a highly sensitive person, you could be one temporarily, or you could be one for the rest of your life, depending on the impact of things or just the way that you were born. This is not the case for an empath. Empaths are born this way, and nothing can alter or change that. So whether you grew up in a safe environment as a kid or one that had a lot of drama and abuse in it, you're still going to be an empath. So that will not change. Good and bad things happening will not change you from being an empath. It won't alter you from being an empath. This is something you cannot change. The only thing that you can change is how you deal with the situations during and afterward. But once you're an empath, that's it. It's something that you're born that way. And you realize that since you're a child, because you realize you're really different from everybody else. You could feel things, notice things, see things that most people don't notice. Even as adults, when you're a child, you could be an old soul where you have certain wisdom or morals that were not cultivated by your parents, but you just think and feel that way because, again, You're in tune with things and you care. You're more compassionate, you're caring. You could put your feelings into anybody else's shoes or situation and really deeply connect with animals and people and things of that nature. A highly sensitive person doesn't necessarily do any of that. Let's see. Empaths are highly sensitive people with a keen ability to sense the feeling and thoughts of people. They could feel the energy around them. A highly sensitive person might be in tune with things. They might look around and it's like, oh, that person's tone of voice changed. Oh, they just did a weird gesture. Oh, it's like I could see this. So they use more of their senses. But so does somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder. So they're not compassionate at all. They have no empathy in them. But they're highly sensitive because they're always gauging their environment. Because anything and everything will trigger their defense mechanisms, which usually hasn't evolved since the age of 2, 3, 4 years old. So that's why they react in such drastic and dramatic ways. So they are highly sensitive people, but they're not empaths. Unfortunately, I've talked to a lot of people, mostly on Instagram, through them getting out of toxic relationships, being in toxic relationships with narcissists, and some claim to be empaths. And there was probably one that I talked to that really was. And a couple were actual narcissists that thought they were empaths. So they couldn't tune into anything. Everything was about them, and they couldn't care about how they make other people feel. As an empath, you always care about how you make other people feel. It's just an innate thing that you have. As an empath, you're extremely compassionate. You're sensitive to the people around you, animals, your surroundings, nature, energy. You just can't help it. You care about people to a point where you're willing to sacrifice yourself for their well-being. And this is something we have to work on too, because it could be physically and emotionally also, which you deserve to take care of yourself also. Empaths are very open, so this is something we have to work on also, where you're not open to negative things and negative people, especially toxic ones, because they feel how open and caring you are, where this is what attracts them to you, because you make them feel better. They won't change, but you help them feel better. And then after a while, they hate you for always being a certain way, which they can't be. So it becomes like a merry-go-round of just hell with these people. You're insightful by nature, because you could tune into somebody because you care. A narcissist will mirror somebody and collect data on them so they could use them and manipulate them as a source of supply and fuel. An empath doesn't do that. So the actions could seem similar, but the intent behind it is completely different. Everything from a narcissist is extremely selfish. Usually things from an empath is more selfless, which is obviously a huge difference. Empaths are great listeners because they care. They want to understand you so they can help you. A narcissist will listen to you deeply because they want to get all the information out of you so they can use it against you to manipulate you. So this is sometimes where you find a common ground, where even though they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, one is using it for their use and their needs for their reasons, and the other one's using it to help you, to be more connected to you, to be of service to you. This is something that's huge. That's why it's like empaths and narcissists will have similar traits, but they're totally for different reasons. Somebody who's highly sensitive doesn't have to connect with people on a deep level. Empaths experience others' feelings and emotions on a deeper level. Highly sensitive people feel others' emotions without absorbing them and internalizing them. This is a big difference. An empath can't help but to absorb and carry other people's feelings, which highly sensitive people don't. But this is why we're going to do some things and work through some techniques where We could do some practices, whether it's meditation or other things, so you could not carry other people's stuff for as long as you need to. You might always need to have some alone time. That's okay. Usually an empath will need alone time and need to recharge for a lot longer. A highly sensitive person, leaving work, they feel totally different. It's like once they walk out that door, they're fine. Even though they're highly sensitive, once they walk out the door, they're fine. As an empath, you could walk out that door, but then you're carrying that energy and those feelings throughout the day where you have to start to learn how to work with it, where it doesn't disrupt your own happiness and peace. There's so many other things that I do want to cover. I just don't want to make this a long video, but some people will label themselves as empaths because it's like, oh, that means you're a sweet, nice, caring person, when they could be a narcissist. Or it could just be a highly sensitive person, and that's fine too, but you're not necessarily an empath. So the stuff that I do want to work on in later videos is for empaths. But if you're a highly sensitive person, all the videos will help you with peace and centering yourself and creating more of a healthy lifestyle with balancing things out and boundaries. So this could help anybody for sure. But there is a big difference, because right now it's become super trendy where people are calling themselves empaths, and they're definitely not. I've talked to a lot of people, unfortunately, who call themselves that, and speaking to them for a little while, I'm like, wow, they're not compassionate, they're not thoughtful. Some of the stuff they say is really crude and selfish, but they just got out of a toxic relationship, so that person might have been 10 times worse than them. So now that they think that they're not as bad as that person, that they're empathic and caring. Meanwhile, they're really just trying to work through their feelings, through whether it's drama or abuse or whatever that is. And we all go through all that stuff. So I'm going to cover a lot more things, and we'll talk about different levels of being an empath. So 2 things with an empath: you are one, you can't help it, but sometimes you don't know it. So you have more on a spectrum of an unaware empath and a fully aware empath. So the whole thing with this is to go from maybe a state of unawareness to awareness, and then to build on that. And then once you get to a certain level, then within being an empath, you hear the horns in New York. But as a higher level empath, you might be able to tap into some abilities that you had that you didn't realize that might have created anxiety or anything else. So a lot of empaths are intuitives, they're healers, psychics, mediums. Remember, it's not something they want to be, and it's not something they practice to be or fake it till you make it. They just are. And when they're younger, they didn't realize that it's like, oh, seeing spirit or other things were things that they naturally did. They thought that was really weird, where they didn't share it with people. That's why most empaths are very introverted. So we're going to cover all these things. And if you don't have any psychic abilities, if you're not a healer, it doesn't make a difference. All these things will help you reach your full potential. And if you are, you might realize that, and you'll have tools to work with, which is the most important thing out of anything else. So hope this video clarified some stuff. If anything, hopefully it made you think a little bit, because that's what we need in this world right now, is some critical thinking, because a lot of people aren't doing that anymore. So, all right, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. God bless and take care.